Hello folks, David Zublik here with a question. Was Jesus Christ a pedophile? Now wait a minute, before you jump down my throat and start writing vindictive comments underneath the video or emailing me at americatalks.com, please understand this is not my contention by any means. But there are those within the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church who actually are using that idea that Jesus Christ was sexually attracted to children and was a pedophile as their justification for some of the heinous acts and abuses being committed in Christ's name. Now, we're going to get into that in a moment. But before we do, I think I need to tell you that we have done a previous report as we've continued to cover this Pizzagate pedophile sex trafficking scandal on the Roman Catholic Church. There is a video that we have done, check out our YouTube channel, called Pizzagate, the Vatican Connection. It outlines some of the information going on within the church and the cover-ups involved with regard to Pedogate. However, this is going to be a little bit more detailed in that we're going to give you what the church sees as a justification for covering it up, for allowing it to continue, for hiding it, for looking the other way, however you want to phrase it. This is what the church is doing. Now, again, there are many religious institutions, there are many denominations of Christianity, and certainly pedophilia is not by any means, limited to the Roman Catholic Church, but they have, over the years, been cited as one of the largest abusers of children and have paid out millions of dollars in compensation to people for some of the actions of their members within their hierarchy. So now we're going to get into the fact that there have been a recent spate of stories, a flurry of them, if you will, about the abuses going on within the Roman Catholic Church. Why is this information all of a sudden coming to light? Why is it finally seeing the light of day when for so long things remained in the dark? Well, one of the reasons is because of our president, Donald J. Trump. He has made it his mission, among many other things he wants to do to help the United States of America, to weed out, to prosecute, and to punish those who would dare to hurt our children, those who would dare to abuse physically, mentally, spiritually our children, including some of the most heinous acts of rape and torture. Now, the Catholic Church, as I said, has attempted to cover this up, but as you will see in this report coming up, because of what Donald Trump has done, several stories, some of them horrific, which we're going to detail to you here now, are coming to light. But then, toward the end of this report, we're going to tell you how the church is justifying some of the things that they have done. And you are going to be literally blown away, shocked by what the Roman Catholic Church uses as a justification for their heinous acts. To begin with, let's talk about some of these recent actions by the church that have been uncovered by certain members within the church, not all, that have been uncovered, and what Donald J. Trump is doing to bring this information to light, and why the Roman Catholic Church may actually be brought down because of this. The truth is about to be unsealed. A leading Vatican expert has revealed that Donald Trump is behind the recent exposure of pedophilia within the higher ranks of the Roman Catholic Church. Leo Leon Zagami has confirmed that Trump was behind the sudden change of pace concerning child abuse by the church seen last week, with the latest scandal to hit Cardinal Pell after obtaining exclusive intel from within the Vatican. Pell has become the highest-ranking Roman Catholic prelate to be formally charged with sexual offenses and is the result of a new strategy in the fight towards pedophile networks by President Trump. This, according to Zagami. The extent of the charges the senior Vatican cardinal is facing has been revealed by police. However, there are multiple complainants relating to those charges. There are at least 10 alleged victims. This, according to the Australian news website news.com.au, adding that they were minors at the time of the alleged assaults and are now aged from their late 20s to their early 50s. The allegations are believed to stretch from the time that Pell was a priest in the Australian town of Ballarat to when he was Archbishop of Melbourne. It is alleged that the cardinal groomed boys at a swimming pool in Ballarat in the 1970s and committed sexual assaults at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Melbourne. This, according to the Australian. The cardinal, who did not admit to any of the alleged offenses and has denied reports that have been circulating in the media for months, was charged by summons to appear before a Melbourne court on July the 18th. Since 2014, Pell has lived in the Vatican, with which Australia has no extradition treaty, meaning the cardinal could potentially avoid prosecution if he chose not to return to his home country. However, the Australian Catholic Church said in a statement Thursday that the cardinal will return to Australia as soon as possible to clear his name. He said he is looking forward to his day in court and will defend the charges vigorously. The Vatican has released its own statement, stressing that Pope Francis has respect for Pell's honesty and energetic dedication to his work on church financial reform. It went on to state that Pell has openly and repeatedly condemned as immoral and intolerable the acts of abuse committed against minors. He has cooperated in the past with Australian authorities and has supported the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors. And finally, as a diocesan bishop in Australia, Pell has introduced systems and procedures both for the protection of minors and to provide assistance to victims of abuse. The 76-year-old Pell was promoted to cardinal in 2003, and 3 years ago he was appointed to serve as the Vatican treasurer, considered to be the third most powerful post behind the Pope. While it is the first time that formal charges are brought against Pell, he was the subject of an investigation in the early 2000s after claims emerged that he had molested an altar boy back in the 1960s. At the time, Pell denied the allegations against him, dubbing them lies. In February, the Australian Royal Commission into Institutional Responses to Child Sexual Abuse released a report stating that more than 4,000 children, mostly boys, have been allegedly sexually abused by Catholic priests in Australia over a period of decades. According to the investigation, since the 1950s, some 7% of priests in the country were alleged perpetrators. The Commission also said that since the 1980s, the Catholic Church has paid over $200 million to victims of alleged sexual abuse committed by priests in Australia over decades. Another priest has been caught stealing from church donations to pay for sex sessions with rent boys after officials noticed that thousands had gone missing from collections. Andrew Sloan of St. Paul's Church in Knightsbridge, London, UK, stole almost $19,000 from the church's collection money and by conning 3 churchgoers into giving him money directly. He covered his tracks by convincing the people who gave him money that it needed to be kept a secret. The theft came to light when accountants realized that the church's collection funds were down by over $5,000. Metro reports, quote, when church officials reviewed CCTV footage, they were shocked to see that Sloan had taken the cash from a safe at the West London Church. The 63-year-old was arrested and he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of fraud by false representation at Westminster Magistrates Court on Tuesday. The court heard how Sloan manipulated his parishioners into transferring money to them. Prosecutor Miss Katie Bryan said, quote, The defendant was funding a lifestyle and using rent boys and living beyond his means. He is a vicar of at least 35 years and joined St. Paul's from a parish in Washington, USA. One of his victims was former model Tempe Brickhill, 56, who he had asked for 1,500 lira money transfers and then raised it to 2,500 lira. Ms. Bryan said, quote, he told her it was to tide him over, and he called her several times in order to hurry up the transfer. Sloan also asked another woman, Paula Kaplan, for helping to pay his U.S. tax bill, and because she trusted him, she transferred around 8,000 lira. Ms. Bryan said, quote, there was a meeting because money was missing. CCTV shows the defendant taking the money from the church. A police investigation was launched last July after Sloan had repaid all of the fraudulent loans and moved to Leeds, but he was still branded a thief and a liar. Sean Murphy, defending, told the court, quote, these offenses reflected a personal crisis in his life, and all of the money was repaid before the police became involved. He made a full confession to the church authorities about what had happened. Sloan admitted stealing from the church collections between January the 3rd, 2015 and September the 6th of last year. He was sentenced to a 12-month jail term, suspended for 2 years, and ordered to pay 85 lira costs and 115 lira victim surcharge. A spokesman for the Diocese of London said, quote, Andrew Sloan took advantage of the trust that his parishioners placed in him as a priest. There is no excuse for what he did, and we can only apologize to those who fell victim to his crimes. Andrew Sloan was suspended as soon as news of the charges against him was made known by the authorities, and we have fully supported the criminal investigation. The diocese is now focused on helping the parish and its congregation deal with what has happened and to move on. Internal church proceedings against Andrew Sloan under the clergy discipline measure are already underway. And as the Catholic Church battles to stem their continuing exposure of clerical pedophilia, detectives have uncovered an unprecedented amount of child pornography, including images, videos, and other explicit content discovered within the walls of the Vatican. The Vatican promoter of justice, Gian Piero Milano, released a report in response to the allegations, which he read in full to the Catholic Church officials during a judicial ceremony. Due to the Catholic Church's internal investigations protocol, Milano claims he is under no legal obligation to actually name names of people accused of pedophilia and possessing child pornography. However, Federico Lombardi, spokesman for the Holy See, showed a rare display of openness and named Archbishop Joseph Wesolowski as one of the accused that had triggered the investigation. Although this may seem like a forthcoming gesture by the Vatican, reports of Wesolowski not only possessing more than 100,000 images and videos of children being forced into sex acts, but also of him sexually abusing multiple children in Poland and the Dominican Republic have already previously been exposed in 2014. Due to the Vatican's internal policies, Wesolowski was investigated but escaped jail for his own protection. In an unusual move by the Church, the high-ranking Catholic official was facing trial from the Vatican's prosecution for his crimes and had been placed under protective house arrest, but mysteriously died before the case even reached a courtroom. The lack of justice following his death left many of his victims frustrated with suggestions that the only reason for the house arrest is the fact that word got out that he was allowed to roam free after he was quietly whisked away from the Dominican Republic and back to the Catholic city-state by Vatican officials in order to avoid prosecution there. According to Church and State, the descriptions of what was actually found on Wesolowski's computer were more than a little stomach-churning. There are more than 160 photos of teenaged boys being forced to masturbate for the camera and perform sex acts on one another. In addition, the boys were raped and forced to perform sex acts on adults as well. Wesolowski was tedious and protective of his child porn collection, filing more than 86,000 images into categories in locked folders. In addition to the images and videos present on the computer, at least 45,000 others had already been deleted. Further, the good Archbishop wanted to make sure he wasn't without a stash of child porn while traveling, so he took a laptop along on his trips containing even more images and videos. It seems fairly typical that the only accused party to be named in this latest child porn discovery case is the one that has already been exposed and passed away, with the identities of the others accused being kept confidential. According to The Guardian, beyond the child pornography cases, Vatican authorities are battling an array of crimes, including drug trafficking and money laundering. 3 drug deliveries addressed to the Vatican were intercepted in 2014, including a packet containing cocaine-filled condoms. The drugs were discovered at Germany's Leipzig airport and handed to the Vatican in the hope of ensnaring the buyer, but no one came forward to claim the package. Despite the array of criminal activity, only 6 people ended up in the Vatican's prison in recent years. They include Marcello Di Finizio, an Italian protester who climbed atop St. Peter's Basilica, and Iana Azdanova, a feminine activist who bared her breasts and grabbed a baby Jesus statue from the Vatican's nativity scene. These scandals confirm the weakness of the Vatican in the face of a history of harassment, always dealt with too late and never with a preventive strategy. There now may truly be a change, however, as the global pedophile network is beginning to crack down. In 2012, Donald Trump tweeted, quote, "Got to do something about these missing children grabbed by the perverts. Too many incidents. Fast trial, death penalty." The church continues to be forced to defend themselves and to pursue the allegations without ever managing to impose a persuasive analysis of the phenomenon and the possible exploitation of pedophilia that people like Cardinal Pell have covered up for decades. It is crucial now to understand that the United States of America and the military-industrial complex have been for years in the hands of the Bush family, the Clintons, and Obama. The military arm of the New World Order, receiving their directives from the financial arm of Freemasonry, headquartered in the City of London, as well as from the religious arm of the New World Order, located in the Jesuit Vatican headquarters, both in the hands of the pedophile network, as recent scandals and recent investigations have proven beyond a doubt. The liberals are desperate to bring down Donald Trump using any and all means. But now that the CIA and other agencies are finally tackling the pedophilia problem because of POTUS's orders, he could be risking his life even more. LGBTQ rights advocates should support the president in this endeavor and distance themselves from the pedophilia reality. In the meantime, President Trump has told Theresa May that he does not want to go ahead with a state visit to Britain, a country that, as we know, is the driving force of the global pedophilia network. UK children in the care of British institutions are 6 times more likely to be assessed for abuse than a child in the general population. Scotland Yard detectives were removed from a pedophile investigation after naming politicians. So maybe the British public should change their brainwashed attitude and support Donald Trump's visit to the UK. Now, here's where things get really disturbing. In a shocking statement by one of the Catholic Church's high-ranking clerics, the Archdiocese of Milwaukee has claimed that pedophilia is a God-given liberty for priests, a God-given right of priests, a form of religious freedom, if you will. Now, these sickening comments were made by Cardinal Timothy Dolan after he was caught allegedly transferring church funds into a separate trust in order to insulate them from clergy child abuse lawsuits. The Catholic Archdiocese of Milwaukee sought to protect $55 million of its funds from lawsuits brought by victims of priestly sexual abuse. So it transferred those funds into a separate trust set up to care for the Archdiocese's mausoleums and cemeteries. Now, this is according to a letter that was actually penned by then Archbishop of Milwaukee, Timothy Dolan. Once the sexual abuse victims sought those funds in a bankruptcy proceeding, the Archdiocese claimed, are you ready for this? That it had a religious liberty to sexually assault children, so it shouldn't have to use that money to compensate victims of abuse. You heard me right. According to Church and State, the accusations against the Milwaukee Archdiocese are particularly horrific, and they involved 45 priests, 45, who are accused of molesting almost 200 deaf boys. In other words, these boys were they already had physical impairments, physical issues. According to Think Progress, they first sealed the $55 million in funds from bankruptcy by putting it in a trust for cemeteries and mausoleums. They then tried the religious freedom defense as justification for what they did. That worked at first, when a court in 2013 ruled that their religious freedom did shield them from paying their victims. A court actually ruled that they could use religious liberty as a defense for not having to pay their victims. The Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals overruled the first court. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the victims are going to see any money. This could take years. This will be in litigation for possibly decades. And it will likely be, appealed over and over again. And the church, unfortunately, is not limited in its financial capacity. The richest organization in the world. The church is claiming that because the money is in a fund for cemeteries and mausoleums, they're not going to be able to fulfill their obligation of servicing dead people if they're actually forced to pay for the people who are still alive, but whose lives they've actually ruined. Can you believe that? Religious freedom became an issue after the Archdiocese claimed that it had a canonical obligation to properly maintain in perpetuity these cemeteries and these mausoleums funded through this trust. Now, of course, the victims of sex abuse or other creditors are compensated out of these funds, and if the victims are compensated, there will be no funds, they say, or at least at best insufficient funds, to perpetually care for these cemeteries and mausoleums. And thus the Archdiocese claims that it'll be unable to fulfill a religious obligation. Once again, religious obligation. In rejecting the claim that the Archdiocese has a religious right to spend the trust's funds on burial places, and only on burial places, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals offers several reasons why religious freedom can't trump the rights of the Archdiocese creditors and those of its clergy's victims. But perhaps most significantly in all of this, the court held that the Archdiocese religious liberty claim would fail even under the strictest level of constitutional scrutiny. Nonetheless, can you imagine the gall of the church using religious liberty, the religious freedom, as a defense to not have to compensate victims of child sexual abuse by members of the Roman Catholic Church hierarchy so that they can pay for mausoleums and cemeteries? It's pretty bad. Now, here's where it gets even worse. There are some factions within the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church who actually believe that the justification for priests, clerics, and other hierarchy within the church abusing children, that their justification for it is the fact that Jesus Christ, they say, was a pedophile. That is exactly what they're saying. And they refer to, of course, the Bible here, Matthew chapter 19, verse 14. I can't believe I'm actually using this as a justification, but this is what they say. And Jesus said,
"Suffer little children, and forbid them not to come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven."
Now, obviously, this is a twisting of Scripture here in the most heinous way, but nonetheless, that is what some within the hierarchy of the Roman Catholic Church are using as an excuse for abusing our children, that Jesus himself was a pedophile. They also refer to some newly discovered scrolls that were found in Israel, only a few miles from where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found 30 years ago, which they claim seem to suggest that Jesus had a young wife before his death that he called Ruth. Okay, it is claimed that Ruth was about 10 years old when she married Jesus, turning the tables on what we all thought we knew about Jesus and the Christian faith. And they're saying that these scrubs, which have been dubbed by archaeologists and biblical historians as the Lost Wilderness Files, show that Jesus reportedly had a soft spot for young girls in their early teens. And they go on to allege that it seems that the 3 days between Jesus' supposed crucifixion and his resurrection were actually a long weekend with a young girl that he met after being acquitted at his trial by the Romans. Unbelievable, but this is what some within the church are attempting to suggest. Okay, so it's enough to make your hair stand up on end. I mean, it's pretty frightening. You know, there's a lot more about the Roman Catholic Church and pedophilia and child abuse that we don't have time to really get to in this report here. Some of which, as I said, is outlined in another video that we did, but also a lot of it can be found in a report that we've put together. We put together a 100-plus page report on Pizzagate. This report has everything. It has links, trackbacks, the complete timeline of events of this Pizzagate pedophile sex trafficking scandal, which actually began with a bunch of WikiLeaks dumps back in the fall leading up to the 2016 presidential election. Email dumps which might have been provided to them by the late Seth Rich, who was murdered, shot in the back twice, and many believe that that was actually a Pizzagate mob hit, perhaps ordered by John Podesta and the Clintons. There's a lot to this. But in this 100-plus page report on Pizzagate that we've put together, there is a whole section on the Roman Catholic Church and their involvement in pedophilia throughout the ages and right up until the present time. I'd like to get you a copy of that report. I think you're going to need to have it because this scandal continues to widen. It continues to break wide open. And I'd like to get this information into your hands so that you could have it. Because you're going to need it if you're going to be able to converse with your family and friends about this scandal, which is not fake news. It's been dubbed fake news. We already know what fake news is. The mainstream news organizations are fake news. This story is real. It is happening, and our children are being hurt and killed in some cases after being raped and tortured. We'd like to put a stop to it. One of the ways we can do it is through education, through these videos, through our websites, through our radio program. I'd like to get a copy of this 100-plus page report on Pizzagate into your hands. We originally put it together with 60-plus pages. We have since updated it. It's now 100-plus pages long. And again, as I said, it includes an entire section on the Roman Catholic Church. I'd like to get it into your hands. How do we do it? Well, there's one of two ways. You can go to any one of our three websites, americatalks.com, truthunsealed.com, or darkoutpost.com. Click the banner ad at the top of the page of any one of those three websites to go to foodforliberty.com/David Z. Food for Liberty is a company that we have partnered with. They sell delicious, nutritious, storable food, food which you can eat and enjoy in the comfort of your own home with your family and friends right now. But in the event of an emergency, a man-made emergency, natural disaster, something were to happen, and you couldn't get to the grocery store to buy food, or you got to the grocery store and due to the situation, the shelves were cleaned out. If something like that were to happen, you would have this Food for Liberty food made by New Manna Foods, a very well-known, well-respected company. You'd have this food on hand to be able to provide for you and your family. And a portion of the proceeds of every sale of Food for Liberty food purchased through our website helps to keep the radio show that we do, the YouTube videos, and our websites up and running. And they also sell water filtration systems, vitamin supplements, camping gear, survival supplies, everything you need to protect yourself and your family. And if you will go to any one of those three websites, americatalks.com, truthunsealed.com, or darkoutpost.com, and click that banner ad at the top of the page to go to foodforliberty.com/David Z. Got to click that banner. Has to be through our website. And make a purchase of at least $25 or more, and they do have a sample pack of the food which you can try. It's $24.95. That counts. You make that purchase, and then email me a copy of the receipt for your purchase. You email that receipt to americatalks@hotmail.com. That's americatalks, all one word, @hotmail.com. And in return, I'll send you back this 100-plus page report on Pizzagate. That's one way you can get it. The other way, if you don't want to make a Food for Liberty purchase, you can go to any one of those same three websites, americatalks.com, truthunsealed.com, or darkoutpost.com. Scroll down the right side of the page till you come to the donate button. Click that button and make a donation to us of $25 or more, and then email me a copy of the receipt for your donation to that same email address, americatalks@hotmail.com. That's americatalks, all one word, @hotmail.com. And in return, I'll send you back this 100-plus page report on Pizzagate. Let me get this report into your hands. You're going to want to have it. Okay? So to recap, Catholic Church has come under fire. There have been a recent spate of stories about abusing priests, everything from child pornography on computers to the rape and torture of boys and girls. Some of these clergy are coming to justice. Some of them are being protected, and the stories are being covered up. But thanks to our president, Donald Trump, who's cracking down on pedophilia, things are beginning to happen. But at the same time that this is going on, we're far from being close to being finished with this, especially with regard to the Roman Catholic Church, because there are factions within the church that are using Scripture to indicate that Jesus Christ might have been a pedophile, and therefore they have a religious liberty, a religious freedom to sexually abuse children, and should be able to use that as a defense for their crimes. And also they have referred to some scrolls that have been recently discovered which might indicate that Jesus had married a young girl around the age of 10 and therefore might have been sexually disposed toward children. I don't believe any of it, but this is what the church is using as their justification, and it's horrific. And if you are a Catholic, if you're a Christian, for God's sake, you need to be concerned about this, and you should be very upset, because this is happening right now. And through these reports, we're trying to put a stop to it. This is David Zublik with the America Talks radio program. I invite you to listen to my radio program every Saturday morning between 9 a.m. and noon Eastern. You can actually go to our website, americatalks.com, go to the radio page, and you can actually watch the show coming to you from the 23rd level below the Earth's surface in the top secret command center. We invite you to like our Facebook page, facebook.com/David Zublik, facebook.com/DAVIDZUBLICK. Follow me on Twitter at America Talks. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, and above and beyond all else, for the sake of the children who we need to save, spread this information far and wide.